York Islanders were eliminated April the 12th. And Neil, the expectation for this team was really more looking towards the future when we did our summer coolers back last August. And when we smooth it out at the end, were they really better than they were in 2024-25? Now, they traded away Noah Dobson. They got Emil Heineman and the 16th and 17th picks from the Montreal Canadiens. So that was a setup for the future. But nobody could have expected the job that Matthew Schaefer had done for them over the course of the season. The special teams were being looked on to improve. Both finished 31st last season. So as we came into the year, between the moves that were made by Mathew Darche, getting Schaefer on board, and just the areas that they needed to improve, did this team end up where you expected?
Yeah, they did end up where I expected them, but depending on how you're judging improvement, are you judging it by points? Are you judging it by making the playoffs? Are you judging it by the future? They certainly have a lot brighter future today than they had at this time last year. Matthew Schaefer is probably going to be a superstar in the league. You've got some other young players that they've got. The future is brighter than it was a year ago. I'm not sure how bright, but brighter than it was a year ago. And they hung in there to make a playoff spot almost all season long. A couple of things went really right for them, though. I mean, obviously getting the first overall pick dropped in your lap because you win in the lottery is something that takes no skill whatsoever, just good fortune. The second thing was Sorokin got back to the form that we had seen him in years gone by. He was a Vezina Trophy candidate this year. And Bo Horvat, what a year he had for goal scoring. He was great, over 30 goals this season. The defense was not any worse for the fact that Dobson was gone, but I think that's in a large part because Matthew Schaefer at 18 years of age took his place on regular shift and on power play. So I think that the Islanders are in better shape today than they were a year ago.
So here's some other reality checks for the Islanders that, of course, as we have mentioned, Schaefer, beyond expectations, 23 goals, tied the all-time rookie record established before by Brian Leetch in 88-89. They also went through some really key injuries during the course of the year, long-term. Kyle Palmieri up front and Alexander Romanov on the back line. But those special teams, the power play with Schaefer, with Horvat, with Barzal back, with Anders Lee, with all these talented players, they only moved up to 30th from 31st. However, the penalty killing, which was dreadful, moved up to 10th. But when we all got down to it at the end, that big collapse at the end of the season on March 30th, the Islanders were the third place team in the Metro. They were 14 games over 500, still not entirely comfortable for a playoff spot, but they had 10 out of their final 12 games at home. And they won 3 out of the first 4, the only loss coming to Chicago of all teams. But that fateful night on March 30th against the Pittsburgh Penguins with a 3-1 lead in the second period and on the power play, and they gave up a shorthanded goal to Rickard Rakell. And if there was a seminal moment of the Islanders' 2025-26 season that everything changed, it was that goal.
It was Rickard Rakell's shorthanded goal, because then Pittsburgh took over that game and the Islanders never recovered from it for the rest of the season. We ended up seeing Patrick Waugh getting fired with 4 games to go. Peter DeBoer came in, which obviously is a very good move for the Islanders in the future, because Peter DeBoer has proven over and over again that he's a top coach in the league. But you're right. This was a season where they looked like they were going to fly past their expectations, make the playoffs, when everything came crashing down on that Rickard Rakell shorthanded goal, which led to a roasting by Pittsburgh of the Islanders in that game. That everything else just went downhill from there.
And that was the start of losing 7 out of 8 to finish the season. And as you said, Patrick Waugh dismissed, Peter DeBoer brought in, could not get the Islanders into the playoffs. And so now Mathieu Darche looks towards the offseason. And here's the work that the Islanders have ahead. They only have 5 picks in the 2026 draft. They traded their second-round pick to Chicago 3 years ago, and that was in part for the Blackhawks taking Josh Bailey's $5 million salary off their hands. And they traded their third-round pick this year to the Rangers for defenseman Carson Soucy, that coming on January 26th. In addition, the team is about $3.8 million over in cap space, so they're not in good shape there either. Their UFAs, captain Anders Lee, the aforementioned Soucy, defenseman Tony DeAngelo, and goaltender David Rittich. But what's interesting here, Neil, is that Semyon Varlamov actually played the Bridgeport Islanders' final game. He missed the entire season for the big club. And if he could come back and be healthy, that would give the Islanders a genuinely formidable 1-2, because I think Rittich is a clear backup goaltender, a career backup goaltender. But Varlamov would be a step up.
Yeah, the only thing is that you've got to be careful about his health. I mean, he hasn't been healthy for a number of years now. He is getting towards the end of his career. But yes, if he can play, certainly him and Sorokin are a formidable duo to play, and that would be a good thing for the Islanders, and they wouldn't have to go out searching for David Rittich's replacement.
You have to think that somebody else, maybe even Rittich, gets signed as a safety net just in case Varlamov can't not return.
Yeah, but I think when they talk to the person that they sign, they're going to have to tell them that you may spend some time in Hamilton, which is going to be where they're going to have their American League team, just to keep getting pucks shot at you all the time so that you're ready to play. That'll be one of the interesting things over the summer to see what they do, along with their captain, Anders Lee, who is a UFA, who's played really well for them the last 2 years, has spent his entire career with the New York Islanders, has already said that he wants to stay there. So, he'll take some kind of a discount to stay. Whether they keep the other UFAs, Soucy, who you mentioned that they got from the Rangers for a third-round pick, Tony DeAngelo, that Lou Lamoriello signed out of the KHL a year ago, and of course we just talked about David Rittich, remains to be seen. My guess is that Mathew Darche will move on. Maybe not from Soucy, because he gave up a third-round pick and he won't want to just have that third-round pick thrown away. But that's other places where they have to pay attention.
The RFAs, Max Chabanov and Mark Gatcomb up front, and Adam Boqvist on defense. So overall, where do you see this team positioned as they head into the draft and into next season? Is this club going to be a contender for a playoff spot? I don't see them much more than a bubble team like they were this year.
I agree. They've got a couple of players that are going to continue to get better. Schaefer certainly one of them, and he was tremendous this year, but he's going to get even better next year. They have to get the same kind of output from Horvat, and that's tough to do. I think they got to get more out of Barzal than they're getting. I don't see them getting much better, but I think they'll be right there, right on the cusp. Maybe on the plus side, maybe on the minus side. I think you're right. I think you're calling it right. I see them as a bubble team.